What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So I'm gonna run a almost like a PSA, right? But I'm gonna run a review on this here because I've had a lot of guys come to class and they've asked me about this freaking rear sight here. Now you read the title, you know who makes the freaking thing. This is like the military standard issue backup iron sight. Run around on M4s, M16, A4s, that kind of thing. Um, you know what's funny is that in civilian circles you don't see a whole lot of what military issue equipment goes through, which is why a lot of guys use quote unquote mil spec as the standard for a lot of what they use. And you also have a lot of guys that make clone guns of military issue rifles. And a lot of times when they make clone rifles of military issue guns, they're not the lightest things ever, but they are absolutely friggin' bomb proof, right? Except for this right here. This thing right here is absolutely lousy. I hate this rear sight with a vehement passion because there's a lot of things that are a big issue with it. Number one, once they're flipped up into place, they don't really lock down worth a damn. There is a detent for holding them down, right? But once they've locked up, or flipped up rather, it's all under spring tension. You can easily fold the things down. The second that you start messing around with gear and that kind of thing, the first thing that's going to happen is that they're going to fold down. For the detents that are still good, okay, which it's getting rarer and rarer as the sights become older and older. There are so many guys that just cannot fold their sights down, and they just stay up permanently forever. Now, that wouldn't be as big of an issue if you didn't take away a really important portion of the rear sight itself, and that's whether or not you have a daylight or low light aperture. Now, it's taught in a lot of military units and in basic training and stuff like that that you're only ever going to use the daylight aperture for everything, and that's because they're trying to reinforce dudes that shoot straight and that kind of stuff, and it's hogwash. All you really have to experience is the sun beginning to go down, it's getting a few shades darker, and this rear sight is suddenly obscuring all kinds of shit. To me, you need both if you're going to run a set of iron sights, because that's just how it works. As far as adjustments left and right, it's really no big deal. But there is something on this that absolutely sucks. And if you do not pay attention to it, it's going to screw you up like forever. And that would be this right here. Okay. Now, in theory, this is a fantastic idea because it's easily seen. You don't have to worry about learning the language of any elevation wheels or any of that shit. And you can very clearly see. Now, you got 200 all the way down to friggin' 800, and you can see how it moves itself based on that, and by simply looking at it, right, it looks like the detent is pretty strong, that it actually takes a little bit of force to move it from left for as far as just moving it up and down and all that stuff, until you start paddle boating with guns a whole lot. So many times I've seen guys run around with guns and shit like that, and they'll end up in rifle TPs and that kind of shit because, while you're at the range zeroing and trying to qualify and all that stuff, they'll have you sit in the bleachers, and while you're sitting in the bleachers, the guns go into a rifle TP that's setting off to the side or a little bit up front of the bleachers or whatever, right? And so many times, guys just putting these down for pick a reason, okay? They get pulled for a detail or something like that, and their rifles are set here, or depending on what they're shooting at the time, here. Most often I see that kind of shit right there. And then they go and pick up their rifle again, and just from that sitting down and being near other guns and that kind of stuff, it gets cranked up all the way over there. And then they go to do their rifle qualification, they're trying to figure out why they're shooting like in the incorrect zip code high above their targets. It's absolutely ridiculous. And to me, it's one of those things where it's like this right here cripples the sight, because over time, the detents on these get weaker. Like I've seen guys take their pinkies and just run them up and down however they want them to. Okay. These not holding the detent is even worse, because the second you start putting on optics and that kind of thing, and because you don't have a low light aperture, this is just in the way all the time, and it kind of defeats the purpose of a standard issue Aimpoint Comp M4, because those are set to an absolute co-witness, because the Army's all about that shit. So this is a cult, and I'm doing a review on this whole setup right here, but I just wanted to take a minute, give you a PSA, and let you know that these sights right here are absolute trash. If you're building a clone rifle, I highly suggest that this be the one thing that you don't mimic part for part on your rifles. Pick a Midwest Industries rear sight or something like that. Something that'll actually give you both apertures. That gives you a good windage knob. That'll lock once you fold it up. Okay, to where you can't freaking fold it down until you push pin out and roll it down. Okay, because this kind of shit right here is, for everyone I've ever seen, it's just perpetually in the way, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. So, that being said, guys, if you want to take training from us and all that stuff, even if you show up with these, I have classes scheduled all over the place right now, and for you California boys that want to come out and do some stuff with us, we're getting ready to set up and do classes in Winnemucca, Nevada, and you're going to see something pop up on the schedule for that inside the next few days, and that'll be a few months out at least, so that you guys have time to get everything that you need to get in order so that you can come out to us. For guys that are nearby and all that stuff, again, there's a bajillion classes that are up, and we're continuously adding to the schedule almost by the day. So if you want to support us through Patreon, or if you want to train with us cheaper, you can absolutely support us through Patreon. It helps us out quite a bit with not just doing reviews and that kind of stuff, but it helps out with our soldier training program, where we bring guys out. We bring them out for nothing. Okay, and the money that goes toward that, and the ammo and all that stuff for those guys, comes from you all. So if you want to help support that, that's great. If you just want to do it to get on the training game and do it for pretty cheap, if you sign up for $35 a month, you can take as many classes from us that you would like to. Also, if you're a teacher that's permitted to carry a gun in class, or if you're a school resource officer that's on campus providing security for schools, if you're in those two billets, you train with us tuition free forever. Okay. Now you're bringing your own ammo and that kind of stuff, and we could probably help you out with gear if you don't have it. But, as far as the tuition and all that, if you want to make me money, bring somebody else out. I'm not charging you ever. So, with that said, guys, remember, regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.